New tonight, the State of the Child report shows the rate of Tennessee infants dying due to suffocation was almost 3 times higher in 2021 than the national rate. This is a look at data from 2018 to 2021. The purple is Tennessee.
10 News reporter Krista Lucas shares one mother's story.
Baby sounds used to fill up Alexandria Bowerman's home in Knoxville.
Waking up and playing with him on his playmat.
It was New Year's Day. Bowerman's son Derek was almost 2 months old when his father answered the phone.
He just tells me his mom called and said that Derek's not breathing.
They later found out how he died.
It was positional asphyxiation.
Shania Thomas from East Tennessee Children's Hospital explains how this can happen to a baby.
Anytime that the airway has been closed or limited in an infant, that will produce suffocation.
Thomas says it's crucial for infants to sleep alone on their back in a crib.
Remove crib bumpers, remove any kind of soft bedding, pillows, blankets. We really mean alone. It's just the baby in the crib.
The miner ended up laying him to sleep, and when she did, she wasn't aware of the risks that came with putting a baby to sleep on a bed or in a cluttered area.
Bowerman now spreads awareness through Derek Stone's Safe Sleep.
I love doing this for him and for other people, but nobody knows how hard and heavy.
Bowerman says nothing will replace her son, but this is how her nonprofit helps.
I'm able to express my love for my kid in a way.
In Knoxville, Krista Lucas.
Children's Hospital says the best way to keep your baby safe is to practice your ABCs. That's asleep alone, on their back, in a crib.
Hello, my name is Devin George. I'm the program officer here at Cribs for Kids, and I'm a little emotional every time. Joining me today is Spencer Poston, our program and outreach manager, and later Kelly James, our social media manager. As always, team members Andrea Wilson and Shayla Grady are running the show behind the scenes, and we're all feeling Alex right now. So thank you for joining us for our Fall 2025 Safe Sleep Champions webinar as we recognize October's Infant Safe Sleep Month with the debut of Cribs for Kids Safe Sleep Storytime campaign, because that's the focus for this hour, stories, and using those firsthand stories to save babies' lives. Before we get started, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. If you're joining us live, your mic is muted, your camera is off, with both chat and Q&A available. Chats for that kind of comments or requests like, I can't hear you, or can you post that link, or maybe shout out to a colleague who you see when you're saying hello to each other in there. Q&A is for questions for our guests and our staff, because if you've joined us before, you know we don't answer questions during the live portion. There is just never enough time. Instead, we ask you to type those questions for us or our guests in the Q&A. We take all those questions, get them answered, and then send them out to those who registered, along with the link to the recording of today's session. Because if you joined us before, you also know that our webinars are live but recorded. All these webinars from our 2023 monthly sessions and our new quarterly Safe Sleep Champion series are available on our website under the Education menu. They're on our YouTube channel as well, which we hope you'll subscribe to. They can all be found on 2 playlists, our 25th anniversary playlist and the Safe Sleep Champions playlist. And it looks something like that. So that means you can share, catch up, or watch on demand if you missed anything. And with today's session, we are going to have 16 webinars in our library featuring safe sleep experts and advocates talking about the work they do in all different areas with infants and families to reduce infant mortality due to suffocation and SIDS. So let's get this one started. We typically begin each webinar with a video that speaks to the conversation we'll be having for the hour. For today, you saw a news report featuring one of our guests, and you saw, yeah, it gets, look, see, still I'm verklempt. Featuring one of our guests, Alexandria Bowerman. She is a brave and brilliant mama who generously shares the story of her baby boy Derek's passing due to unsafe sleep. And it's the willingness of those like Alex, whose lives have been forever changed by unsafe sleep for SIDS, to share their experience and their stories that make the biggest difference. For October's Safe Sleep Awareness Month, we're featuring words of personal experience with the debut of Safe Sleep Storytime. This collaborative effort is going to use our social media and that of our partners and advocates as a forum to share their stories, building a library. And the goal of this story library is to give anyone who cares for a baby a chance to find a story that hits home, inspiring and supporting them to follow safe sleep practices so that every baby wakes from every sleep. But before we talk about Safe Sleep Storytime, I need to tell you the latest stories about the other work that Cribs for Kids is doing. First, keep our Safe Sleep Academy on your radar. We're making updates over the next several months. So when you visit safesleepacademy.org now, the first thing you'll see is the updated landing page that features our 12 steps to follow for 12 months of education, with great links at each step for supporting resources. You'll see too a quick link to our video library, and we'll be adding a link to our safe or not safe photo quiz. Now, Cribs for Kids is able to offer all of our free programs and education like this through the sale of our value-priced safe sleep and infant products to our partners. Earlier this year, we debuted our mini cribette. It's exactly the same. Here it is right here. It's exactly the same as our full-size cribette play yard. It's got the bassinet feature, the same height and weight use, and the same safe sleep messaging on it, but it's about 20% smaller. So that smaller footprint makes it perfect for safe sleep space for those who are struggling to find room for a full-size pack and play or a crib, and it makes it a little bit lighter for traveling around too. And we also have new manufacturers stocking our warehouse. Costco, Safety First, Durrell, Baby Trend, and Rumble Tough, providing us with great options for partners for everything from breast pumps to many styles and models of high chairs, strollers, car seats. So we have so much in there to offer. We are also excited to offer our partners diapers and wipes from Childcare. They're a brand leader in New Zealand, and Cribs for Kids is now an exclusive source for this popular brand here in the US. So if your hospital, Department of Health, nonprofit, or other agency is purchasing infant products from another source, we ask you to please consider Cribs for Kids, because it's the purchase of these value-priced infant products that supports our free resources and programs of our nonprofit. So one of these programs that we're going to talk about is our new professional training series, created and managed by Spencer Poston. Spencer, I am so glad you're here with me. It's always better with two. I think that's Winnie the Pooh that says that, right? So I love sharing this story. We talked about the professional training series with Dr. Berger in our July webinar when we launched the first module. And now we have our second module out there, and our third one is coming soon, adding to that story. So first, I'm going to hand this over to you, and then maybe you can talk about the purpose and general design of the new professional training series.
Yes.
Ta-da!
Thank you, Devin. So this is a series of safe sleep training modules, each targeted to a different profession that interacts with infants and their families in a unique way. And when we say targeted, we mean we are really gearing the content to be very specific to that profession. The idea of these modules is to build on the foundations of safe sleep provided by our Safe Sleep Ambassador training and take it a step further to say, now that you have an understanding of what safe sleep is, how can you apply that knowledge to your work in caring for infants? And what steps can you take to help families actually practice it? So we're very excited about the focus on practical strategies and tailored support in these trainings. Like the Safe Sleep Ambassador, each professional module includes a quiz to assess learning, and once successfully completed, there's an e-badge that can be downloaded to include in signatures or on profiles. Because it's designed for professionals, the language and content are a little denser than the Safe Sleep Ambassador, but each module is around 60 slides in length and should take about 45 minutes to complete.
Yeah. And having this professional series available for free and on demand is a new resource we've been looking forward to launching. It's been on our project list for a while. We were finally able to focus on it thanks to Dr. Berger from July's webinar, who you all met, inviting Cribs for Kids to partner on a state grant she secured. So maybe bring everyone up to speed who wasn't able to see the July webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you mentioned, this series launched with our child welfare module in July. And in your conversation with Dr. Berger, you talked a lot about the origins of that and how it started with a grant-funded statewide project here in Pennsylvania. For anyone who missed that conversation, Dr. Berger received funding to develop a comprehensive safe sleep training program for child welfare workers across the state, in response to the fact that infants involved in the child welfare system are at particularly high risk of SUID. We knew these high-risk infants needed extra support, and that child welfare workers were positioned to provide it, especially because they interact with families in the home. They get to see the sleep environment firsthand and have one-on-one conversations about safe sleep that aren't always feasible in other settings. So Dr. Berger set out to develop a program to help caseworkers feel equipped and prepared to do that, which is when she hired me to be her program coordinator and when she approached Cribs for Kids to collaborate on the training content.
Yeah, we were so happy to get that invitation. And it wasn't just our two entities collaborating, we were working with caseworkers themselves.
Yeah, yeah, via the webinar-based training that you and Dr. Berger delivered directly to county caseworkers over the course of a few years. After each presentation, we collected feedback from the audience that went on to shape future presentations. And we continued to do that until its final form was added to the official statewide training curriculum for all Pennsylvania caseworkers. We were thrilled to have it become a sustainable, permanent part of caseworker training here in PA, but we knew this valuable content also deserved a nationwide audience. So around that time is when I transitioned over here to Cribs for Kids to tweak what we had made and transform it into an online self-guided training that would be relevant and accessible to caseworkers across the country. This is when we were able to move forward with the concept of a series of modules for different professions in the launch of the professional training series.
Yeah, so serendipitous that you were able to join the Cribs for Kids team. Judy Bannon, our founder and CEO, calls these hand of God moments for our agency, and they happen pretty often. Lucky us. Tell us a little bit about, though, what's different from the professional training series modules versus the Safe Sleep Ambassador that you mentioned that it builds on.
Yeah, I'm so glad I ended up here. It was meant to be.
Yep.
But like I mentioned, our goal is to help professionals learn how to translate safe sleep knowledge to safe sleep practice. So therefore, the Safe Sleep Ambassador is a prerequisite for all of the series modules. This is something we also did in the statewide program. We asked our audiences to complete the ambassador in the weeks prior to attending the training. And we like to say this kind of puts everyone on a level playing field when it comes to safe sleep knowledge, so that then the professional training itself gets to focus on how it relates to their specific role.
Mm-hmm.
So while each module starts with a quick refresher of the Safe Sleep Ambassador content, we pretty quickly dive into that targeted content. For the child welfare module, for example, this includes an in-depth discussion of the risk factors for SUID, keeping in mind that caseworkers do work with such a high-risk population, especially substance exposure and caregiver impairment.
Mm-hmm.
It also includes a child welfare-specific case example of SUID, and then moves on to provide a framework to guide the home visit in the context of safe sleep. And this framework takes them through everything from preparing for the home visit ahead of time by reviewing the family's information for any risk factors, to assessing the sleep environment in the home, to providing appropriate and impactful resources. It also unpacks the nuance of the safe sleep conversation, knowing it can be a sensitive subject, and knowing caseworkers may be overcoming a position of distrust with some families, depending on the situation. So we provide a lot of tips for asking open-ended, non-judgmental questions, acknowledging the challenges of safe sleep, as well as encouraging the family's wins. We even encourage caseworkers to share their own stories and experiences of infant sleep with families to help build empathy and normalize that learning is part of parenthood. So I love that we're doing the Safe Sleep Storytime campaign, because I really do think that stories are just an essential part of safety.
Yeah, stories. That's the thing, right? But so we've got the child welfare module, and pretty quickly following that, we released the home visitors module with solid positive feedback still.
Yeah, that's right. We knew we wanted to reach all the professionals that engage with families in the home. So social workers, home visiting nurses, lactation counselors, early intervention specialists, they all have an opportunity to leverage that personal nature of home visits to support safe sleep. So this module just launched at the end of August, and it's very similar to the child welfare module, but without the emphasis on working with high-risk infants. If you are a home visitor who does work with higher risk populations or with families struggling with substance use, you may want to take the child welfare module as well.
Yeah, do both, right? So based upon what we heard from our child welfare collaborators across Pennsylvania, we also designed a couple of supporting tools for those who are in the home, right? So not just the education piece that's there. So what are those kind of tools they'll find when they go to the professional training series page?
Yeah, exactly. We realized we wanted to provide users with something tangible in addition to the training content. So we created a safe sleep assessment tool designed specifically for home visitors. And it reflects the layout of the module, covering risk and protective factors and asking about safe sleep practices and knowledge. This can be completed electronically as a fillable PDF or printed and filled out by hand. We also developed a frequently asked questions handout based on some of the questions we were asked most often at our presentations in the statewide phase of the project. This handout is great leave-behind education to take to home visits, and it's also available for download from the Professional Training Series homepage.
Yeah, questions we got that we would know the answers to, but wouldn't realize would be so top of mind for those who were in the home. The questions about like, how come my baby can sleep in the car seat in the car, but not in the house? Or what are some kind of in a pinch safe sleep spaces? So this was just a super strong start to this series. So what's next?
Yeah, up next will be our childcare module. This one is targeted to those providing childcare for infants in a professional capacity, whether in a licensed center, a certified program, in-home daycare, or for those working as private caregivers, like nannies or au pairs. We are working to reach those who aren't primary caregivers, since 20% of infants that die of SUID, that's over 700 babies annually, die in the care of someone else. This module focuses on building a protocol for safe sleep that's easy to use regardless of the childcare setting, and how a childcare provider can discuss their commitment to safe sleep with families. It will also include new tools and resources, like a safe sleep screening tool to complete with families new to their services, an FAQ with childcare specific questions, and safe sleep signage to display in the childcare setting. It's gone through review from our program advisory board and is in its final stages now, and we plan to launch it on October 10th.
Great for Infant Safe Sleep Month. So I want to acknowledge when Spencer just mentioned our program advisory board members. They may have gone a little bit more than they bargained for when they committed to a 2-year term with Cribs for Kids. It started with our photo quiz, now the professional training series, and another project we've asked for their feedback on. But having them in our corner with all of their different experiences and perspectives is so important, and we are wildly grateful to those 10 folks.
Yeah, this series would not be possible without the program advisory board, that's for sure. And they're not just an extra set of eyes on our work, but they really take the time to provide thoughtful, crucial feedback based on their own expertise and lived experiences with safe sleep. And they also connect us to their own communities, reaching out to other experts they know when more input's needed. Our material would just not be what it is without them.
Right. Yeah, I'm going to mention with the childcare module, we have a first responder on our program advisory board who then he mentioned, oh, I have a couple of childcare professionals that I work with in our community. Do you mind if I send it to them? Please do. So kind of that circle gets bigger and they all give a different perspective and different feedback and to ensure that these modules are impactful and appropriate and meaningful. So their collaboration is so vital, and it's going to continue to be as we expand the professional training series. So what's next?
Yeah, so we'll be working on a module for first responders next, and then modules for healthcare professionals and doulas after that. These will likely launch in early 2026. Right now, you can visit the professional training series landing page by selecting it from the education tab on the Cribs for Kids website. We are also working on accompanying items like an evidence-based research library and a national resource finder, so that professionals really just have a one-stop shop for all of their safe sleep needs. So it's a lot of really exciting projects in the works.
It is. And again, this training is all free. You go take the Safe Sleep Ambassador, there's no charge. You go take the professional training series, there's no charge. Use our quiz module, our quiz, and there's no charge for that. As well as we have lots of other tools in our partner resource portal too. So this is such great work. Thanks to you, Dr. Berger, our advisory board. It's a lot of people that make this happen, and everyone who's logging in and completing the modules. We are off to such a great start. So when the childcare module is released later this month, we'll share that on our social media, in our e-newsletters. And if you're registered for this webinar, you'll get that notification as well. So Spencer, thanks for sharing one of the newer chapters in the Cribs for Kids story. And next up is our newest chapter, Safe Sleep Storytime. Here's more from Alex Bowerman, who you saw at the start of the hour.
When Derek first passed away, I was so angry, and some days I still can be. But I could not allow my pain to be in vain. I had to take this tragic situation and give it some purpose. I don't believe that he was taken with purpose. He passed away tragically in an accident. All of this was unintentional and unthought of. I had to take it and give it some intention, some meaning, and it has given me a major mindset change. It has changed my whole perspective on so many things. When Derek first passed away, I was always on this roll about boundaries. So-and-so went against my boundaries because I asked that the child not be left alone. But truth is, I missed the standard. And I'm not saying this is all my fault, all their fault, but there was a lack of education in this situation. I never for a second thought that the 12-year-old would be caught without an adult there to supervise the caretaking that she's offering. I see this gap, so we have been able to get into schools to talk to young teenagers, whether they be teen parents or caregivers at home looking for a babysitting job over the summer. We seek to reach caregivers as soon as possible so that nobody else has to experience. We have also done classes for parents. This is where we're able to offer a pack and play too. So not only are parents able to receive the education and awareness, we follow up with the resources. Thank you, Cribs for Kids, the grant. You guys, That is going to help Knoxville, Tennessee so very much, and we're so grateful to be able to follow up with an actual safe sleep spot. That way we know that families are secured their safe sleep spot. That alone makes me sleep a little bit better at night, knowing that we are preventing accidents, even if it is just one. Will never heal me completely, will not take away what's happened to Derek, but it is such an honor.
She is just so lovely and such a story to tell. We're going to hear from Alex soon. But first, welcome to Kelly James, Cribs for Kids social media manager, one of the few hats she wears around here. Kelly's here to get us started on October's Infant Safe Sleep Awareness Month and our new Safe Sleep Storytime campaign. So, like Spencer brought everybody up to speed on the professionals training module, let's bring everyone up to speed on October's National Safe Sleep Month. Kelly, you have been involved from the very beginning when the NICHD launched this effort, starting all the way back with Safe Sleep Snap. So tell us where we've been and how we got here.
Sure. Thanks, Devin, for having me. When I think back, my connection to National Safe Sleep campaigns really started when I served on the NICHD's Safe Sleep Month committee. The first campaign we worked on was Safe Sleep Snap in 2018, which then transitioned into Clear the Crib in 2022. Cribs for Kids was always a presenting partner, not only joining NICHD's webinars for each campaign, but also launching our own local efforts while promoting nationally with our partners. The result was really incredible. We saw safe sleep content being shared from coast to coast. Unfortunately, NICHD's communications office has since been shuttered. And if you visit their website, you'll see information from 2024 still sitting there, but nothing's being updated, and you can no longer order their free materials. What a shame. That central hub that once pitched the tent for all of us and brought everyone together just isn't there anymore.
But when we get lemons, oops, we didn't get lemonade. If we get lemonade, put vodka. No, when we get lemons, we start making lemonade, right?
Right. And that's where the opportunity emerged. At Cribs for Kids, we had already been planning to build a library of stories within the Safe Sleep Academy. So while NICHD's stepping back left a big hole, we realized that it also created a chance to shape a new campaign, one that could rally people again. And that's how Safe Sleep Storytime found its place on our calendar this October, giving us a new way to bring people together and keep the momentum alive.
And knowing the power of stories for education, we had originally planned, like you mentioned, to have a collection of them as a menu item on the updated Safe Sleep Academy, just written in their own words. You took a different approach. And tell us how your idea for a Safe Sleep Storytime as a campaign started to develop.
Yeah, the inspiration came from seeing how powerful the storytime trend was on TikTok. People were telling really personal stories in such a simple, relatable way under the hashtag Storytime. And it struck me that safe sleep's one of those topics where stories can make a much bigger impact than just facts or statistics. We realized that if we could harness the same approachable style, but apply it to safe sleep, we could help people connect to the message on a deeper, more personal level. And that's how Safe Sleep Storytime was born.
Yeah, right. That story time is a big stop scrolling and listen please signal on TikTok. So why are these first person stories so important?
Yeah, these stories cut through in a way that data alone just can't. When someone shares their own experience, whether it's a safe sleep tip, something that worked for their family, a creative solution they came up with, or the way their organization promotes safe sleep, it makes the message real. We wanted to create a space where all of those voices could come together because every perspective adds value and can inspire others to act.
Yeah, everybody has a story to tell. So it's those videos that are the heart of the new Safe Sleep Storytime campaign, that first person impactful message.
Right. Video is one of the most powerful tools in social media. Seeing a person speak creates a much stronger connection than reading words on a page. It puts a face to the message and helps people feel the emotion and sincerity behind it. We're asking people to record just short videos. They don't have to be polished or professional. The authenticity is what really matters.
Yeah, we bravely hear from lost parents like Alex, who's joining us later, and that's critical for this work. But you had mentioned solutions and tips and all voices. So what kinds of stories are we hoping to hear, and who are you hoping to hear from when you think about this campaign?
This campaign's designed to be inclusive, not just for parents and family members, but also for other caregivers. We're talking nurses, pediatricians, neonatologists, community health workers, first responders, doulas, coroners, and medical examiners, our partner organizations and community groups. Everyone in this space has a story to share. At the same time, we know that too many families have been deeply impacted by unsafe sleep. We want to honor them and welcome their voice, but make sure that no one felt pressured or singled out. These are difficult stories to tell. We have been very intentional in our language, wanting to hear from everyone with whatever they're willing or able to share. We do want to hear success stories, families who struggled and then transitioned to safe sleep, doulas who have supported families in their safe sleep commitment, really good conversations about safe sleep that had an unsafe sleep product no longer used for sleep. And like I said, tips and tricks to get your baby sleeping safely are always welcome.
Yeah, that product information is critical, right? We
Really,
know that
for
just
sure.
because it's for sale, it's not
not
safe.
safe,
So
right.
learning how those kind of conversations can happen is again another safe sleep story to tell. So, and there's so much in each person's story and so many different types of stories to tell. So ultimately, what were you hoping to have come out of this?
Well, we hope to make this our annual Safe Sleep Month campaign, building a library of stories that families, professionals, and communities can access all year long, while continuing to expand the library each year. When people see safe sleep in practice in real lives, it builds trust and it makes the message stick. And we believe these stories have the power to change behavior and ultimately save baby's life.
And you have done an incredible job making it simple to join Safe Sleep Storytime. So you see it scrolling on the screen here. Kelly built a turnkey toolkit, and she'll say we when she talks about it. There's no we, it's a she. So I love it so much. As you see it scrolling now, you can see everything on there from a simple how to participate to FAQs to prompts and tips and sample posts. It's so fabulous.
I work to keep it simple. Just the Safe Sleep Storytime. Just visit the Storytime Toolkit on our website and you'll have everything you need. You'll find step-by-step instructions for recording, sharing your story, whether you're an individual or an organization. You have all month, but we hope people will jump right in.
Yeah.
Grab your phone and record your story after this webinar or over the weekend, then post away because if you're watching today, October starts tomorrow. So share it with your networks, use the hashtag Safe Sleep Storytime, and most importantly, make it your own. Your voice really does matter.
Yeah, and it is relying on social media, right? That's a great platform to share, accessible to everybody. So that means the tag on those posts is important, right?
Yes, I mean, you need to use the hashtag Safe Sleep Storytime and tag us also by adding @Cribs4Kids to your post. And that's what allows us to share posts across all of our platforms, really spreading the word and helping safe sleep education go viral. This campaign is about preventing suffocation in SIDS, and the hashtag is the connector that makes it visible and powerful.
Yeah, and don't forget that hashtag because there's more for the month with the campaign.
Right. We're adding even more energy to the Safe Sleep Storytime throughout the month by featuring some of our partners and advocates and by hosting weekly giveaways. So thanks to our sponsors at the Baby Safety Alliance and Baby Safety Foundation, Safe Kids Worldwide, and Safe Infant Sleep, we'll be giving away digital gift cards to our online shop, etc. All you have to do is post your video to be entered. I'd also really like to thank Shayna from Claire Bear Foundation and Alex from Derek Stone Safe Sleep in helping us promote Safe Sleep Storytime. I think it's important to also acknowledge others who've led in this space. Like, for instance, Michigan's Family Stories of Sleep-Related Loss effort and the guide they developed for digital storytelling, as well as the nonprofit Story Center, which provides great tools for weaving stories into the work that agencies and companies are doing. We want Safe Sleep Storytime to feel connected to those efforts while also building something that's uniquely ours, a campaign that brings parents, advocates, and professionals together in one shared space.
Yeah, Michigan does some amazing work. Even if you're not going out for the story time, it's worth checking out Michigan and all the efforts that they have for infant safe sleep on their state site. So
for sure.
Kelly, thank you so much for your vision, your expertise, the toolkit. If you can't tell, I think is pretty amazing.
Thank you.
And we are looking forward to the successful premiere of Safe Sleep Storytime. We've gotten some stories already, right? One that we shared earlier from today's guest, Alexandria Bowerman, founder of Derek Stone Safe Sleep, who we also saw in the opening news story. I know she's going to be turning on her mic and her camera soon, and I am humbled to introduce you all to Derek's mom, Alex Bowerman. Alex, thanks for making time to share your family story and join us today.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today.
Oh my goodness. Again, thank you for that It is. You hear Kelly talking about how impactful those personal stories are and how brave you are to tell them. From the opening news story, you're just so honest and clear with your message and so positive in what you want to come from it and in the story that you sent to us all about the work that you're doing. So you have been brave enough to share that story. And we really just want to spend the next, half an hour or so, maybe 25 minutes. Once I get going, it's hard to reel it in, but talking about the incredible impact that Derek has had on your life and how it's led you to impact so many others. So you talked about it in your video, your Storytime video, and you talk about it. If you talk about it here more, about Derek teaching you even before he was born, because I love
Yeah.
your perspective on this. Can you tell everyone else about it?
Absolutely. So I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a planned pregnancy. This was all extremely unexpected. But when I found out I was pregnant with Derek, that's when I set my first boundary and I asked people not to smoke around me because I didn't want Derek exposed to the secondhand smoke or myself because I was carrying him. And that's the first time I really learned how to advocate for myself was because of Derek.
Yeah, I mean, you had to say to people, right? Because you learned about third hand smoke, so you would
Yes.
just be like, "Hey," right?
Yeah. So beyond just like the secondhand smoke too, where like if you're standing in the same room as somebody and you inhale that exhaled smoke, third hand smoke is like when there's actually no smoking actively happening, but that if someone smoked outside, it could be on their hoodie or their hand. So my baby dad did continue to smoke, but I set the boundary and he was okay with it that you smoke outside and when you come inside you wash your hands, take a shower. I would ask him to take a shower, but that's not always like doable for people, and then I would have them, like, have a separate hoodie on and take that off and then put a different shirt on. I was as strict as I could be, we can't control people and tell them what to do, but we can, like, draw the line and say, "Don't cross it."
Yeah, and we talk about that in the child welfare module. We say, look, if we want to recognize the good things they're doing, like you were saying, like go outside and smoke, but maybe keep a hoodie by the door that you put on when you go out to smoke that then you take off and put in, right? So that's all kind of very practical information. But I mean, that is as a young mama to be, that is an amazing first step for you to take. Right? Like, here's my boundaries. I'm going to do this, that you could even vocalize that. What a great mom you were from the very get-go. And you continue to do amazing things, right? You turned Derek's dying, having him taken from you in a way now that you give to others. And you pretty quickly transitioned that grief, incredible grief, into action. So tell us about what that was like.
I feel like I had no choice but to turn my grief and anger into something more productive because it absolutely was not. It wasn't healthy for myself. It wasn't healthy for the family members that Derek was with the night that he passed away. And so I honestly was so angry that I felt like I could get into some trouble. So I was like, I don't want to throw my life away. And to be clear, I do feel like Derek was taken away from me in a way. And I'm like, I can't let them take any more than what they have away from me, even though it was not intentional. Like it did happen, and I was tired of them continuing to take like my happiness. And so I had to take Derek's story and give it a little bit more purpose. And because again, like in my video I said before with this safe sleep story time, like I don't think that there was any purpose. People will say, well, God has a purpose with this and is gonna that it's not true. It was an accident and I had to take this and give it some purpose instead of it all just being in vain and angry all the time.
Yeah, and it's and like most of these unsafe sleep deaths, these weren't babies that are abused or neglected. That Derek was being loved on and cared for, right?
Right.
So how it, and of course you're angry, but how do you take that anger and so many people are impacted. That's the thing with these infant deaths as well. So you just did an amazing job in quickly, so brilliantly turning that anger and grief into purpose. And the first place you turn to is what we're talking about today, right?
Social
With social
media.
media.
It is a really good spot because you can reach so many people so quick, especially on TikTok. I know they've made the videos a little longer, which I do like because you can like, I'm gonna make another story time for y'all and it'll probably be like 10 minutes posted on TikTok. But most of the time people are scrolling fairly fast and like you can get that attention in the first minute to two and like really get your point across. and people can learn a lot in just a little bit of time just by sitting and scrolling on their phone.
Yeah, and so kind of what was your first the response to that first video? And even, you talked about Derek's dad a little bit and you posting and what that was like. Can you share that kind of that initial transition?
I didn't realize that so many people were unaware of safe sleep, and I also didn't realize how much unsafe stuff is promoted online more frequently than safe sleep. So I knew that it was important that somebody comes in to fill the gaps wherever they may be, or to, I'm always looking for the gaps. Like, where's a unique way to fit into this so that I can talk about safe sleep?
Yeah, you use being Derek's mom as an unbelievable way to reach people, not just through social media, but across Knoxville, Tennessee, where you are and beyond. So tell us a little bit about what else you go out and do.
So we last year towards the end of the year, I finally fulfilled it happened fairly fast because we've only been a nonprofit for a couple of years. But one of my main goals when I started Derek Stone Safe Sleep and switched from TikTok and, started a Facebook page, I posted a few of my goals, and one of them was getting into like middle schools and high schools. And I have been able to get into high schools to talk about safe sleep, typically in the early childhood development class where they have the fake belly and the little play baby that they take home, and they talk about, how the baby develops. But then I'm able to come in and talk about how important it is to put babies to sleep safely and what that would look like and how to eliminate any risk factors. And then on top of that, too, I do workshops with parents, and I try to reach all caregivers, but I really get in a lot with the mamas, the single mamas, and I really encourage them to be able to like create a safety net for them. Not everybody has like, support. Sometimes we have to go out and fight for it and look for it. And I tell them, it doesn't have to be the baby dad. It doesn't have to be your mom. You could rely on your like a pediatrician, and then find support groups locally or even online. There's a lot of really good support groups that I found online.
Yeah, that's so. And you also mentioned that so I want to be sure I get this right because you had learned about infant safe sleep in the hospital, right? So you knew the basics, but as you were going out and starting to teach people, you were learning about, swings and car seats and things and able
Right.
to incorporate that because you found that to be a gap in the education that you
Yes.
got, and then you were expanding that on the work that you were doing.
It was a big gap. Like I said, I did not plan my pregnancy, so when I found out I was pregnant, I started freaking out, and I went to the health department, and they had set me up with, it was like a Hope Resource Center, and I was able to go every week and take baby classes, and for, like, reward, I would get baby bucks, and I could get, bottles and such like that and things that I needed to take care of Derek. But when I would go, I would continuously learn new things. Like, that's where I learned about third-hand smoke because I already knew about secondhand smoke. And then they were talking about, like, safe sleep, don't bed share. Don't share the bed with baby. But other than that, they did not talk about safe sleep. I didn't know that sitting devices were not for sleeping. So one of my favorite things to say when I'm educating people, if it's for sitting, it's not for sleeping. And even my own parents told me, like, we used to put you in a car seat and that's how you would go to sleep, and we'd let you sleep in it all night. And it's a miracle that I survived that. And that Derek, I wasn't the one to find him the few times that I did allow him to sleep in his swing and car seat because nobody mentioned that to me. It was all just kind of like focused on bed sharing. So I'm grateful for my experience where, it's very humbling to know that I could have been the one to find Derek. I talk about being so angry and stuff, but when you wake up and realize, man, I put him at risk too, and it could have been me, like it could have been any of us because there's so much that we don't know typically until we learn the hard way. And that's why it's so important that people tell their stories transparently because there's no shame in not knowing truly.
Right, right. But once we do know, how do we support? And so you did such a great job. And I'm sure you would encourage all other young new parents to go seek out those resources like you talked about, from your Department of Health and other community agencies.
Like,
Help and support is there because, as you mentioned, you might find somebody there to connect you to some other support.
mhm.
So I know you do great work working with the T-tops you had mentioned when we talked,
Yes.
and then you put yourself some places where people might not expect. to see safe sleep information.
Yeah.
So can you tell everybody kind of some of that unusual stuff that you do?
Yeah, so I recently attended CreepyCon here in Knoxville and they had like costume contests. It's a lot of like scary horror movie stuff. And so my boyfriend's mom had a table and I was able to put some resources out and like, what's really scary, like unsafe sleep and not knowing what's unsafe. And I just try so hard to be able to mold into places like that. I recently, I think it was like at the beginning of the summer, not as recent as it feels because time is flying, but there was like a music event, like they had a brunch with a DJ and I sat up there and I posted up some of my art because art has been really helpful with my grief and like a good outlet for it. And then with my art, I put Derek's pictures and just like safe sleep tips with all of that. So I love being able to get in where I can and finding unique ways to talk about safe sleep because it's not a comfortable conversation. And if you can add like a little bit of light to it, it does help.
Yeah, I know you, and you do a lot of workshops, and you're right. It can be an uncomfortable. Some people have some real strong beliefs about it, but you had mentioned when you were talking about doing CreepyCon and doing workshops, but you also do one-to-one training. So
Yes,
tell me a little bit about how you do your workshops, because you do virtual, you do in person.
it's a
So
lot.
I
I am
what I'm trying to impress upon people is how one young grief-stricken mother is having such an incredible impact on her community. And so I think that you're such a role model. So that's why I keep asking you, like, tell me
no,
this
I
other thing that
appreciate
you're
you.
doing and this other thing that you're
Please.
doing.
Thank you. So, actually my one-on-one started and this is another humbling experience and like it shows you just like kind of trust the process. But I went and did a safe sleep workshop at the Catholic Charities of East Tennessee. I think that's how you say it. It's something along those lines. And when I got there, there was only one girl there. And when you do things like this, you hope to fill the room, you hope to get as many people signing up as possible. And when I came in and was only one girl, I was like, this kind of sucks. I feel like, but it was so worth it because I was able to be transparent with her. And I think that opened up the space for her to be more comfortable with me. And because there was nobody else in the room, I think it really made it, like, flow a bit more naturally where we could talk about, like, our own biases and how we grew up and what we've done with our babies that we didn't know was unsafe without somebody else being like and that's why I'm happy to, talk about where I fall short because I think it really helps other people be like, well, she's not as hard on herself, which I am. I truly am, but I'm trying to get rid of that and show other people that it is okay and there's no shame in not knowing because once you know better, you do better. But if you don't know, then you don't know. And
Yes.
I love my one-on-one calls. They're so fun. So I've moved into doing them virtually too, and that's how I'm giving people their pack and play that I got from you guys is we'll do a one-on-one and then I'll either take it to them, they'll come to me, or we'll meet and I'll get them their pack and play.
Yeah, that pack and play is part of the building blocks grant that we did with the Baby Safety Foundation and Save Kids Worldwide. A really wonderful program. We're so happy to work on. Now, so you mentioned your own biases and your own ego, and when we talked to you, talked about removing those. And I think it would be helpful for people to know kind of what that was like for you, but also I would like it if you would share with people your perspective on when identifying when people are ready to learn and how you manage that versus when they're not ready to learn. Like, she's so wise. Go ahead.
So I have grown up with a pretty big ego, and I think it's a thing that we do to protect ourselves. I think it's a protective mechanism that we just kind of have. And when you hear something that strikes you as, oh, I'm doing something wrong, you kind of like give it quite a bit of pushback because you don't want to be told that you're doing something wrong. But truly, it's constructive criticism, and that's how we learn, is if we don't take it so personal. And having biases, like, I've kinda tried to let them go. I'm trying to figure out what my biases would be right now, but it's easy. Let's say, like, with infant loss, like, I am a lost mom, so my bias, immediately is gonna swing over to safe sleep is the best sleep, that's our slogan, I'm all about it for sure, but that doesn't mean when somebody's like, "Oh, well, we bed share," I'm not like, like, I'm not ready to completely, like, shut them down and out and tell them that they're wrong. I'm interested in, like, why? Why do you bed share? Like, do you like the bonding part of it? Or are you worried that your baby's gonna choke in their sleep and that this is, how you feel that you're protecting them. Like, I want to hear people's perspective and how they feel and why. And then once you can kind of get the why, you can make them more comfortable and talk about, like, that is biased. I don't know the word to be like, make it a more comfortable conversation, but it's like, we all live in biases, and being aware of it and being able to drop it, even if it's only for the moment, is a huge step because you're not always ready to learn, but it's like little seeds, and people have planted seeds in my head, and I hope I do the same where, like, you plant the seed, you can't expect it to grow the next day, the next week, or maybe even the next month, but just celebrating the small growth and the small steps. Celebrate even just watering the seed without seeing anything else come from it. It's so important to celebrate the small steps that we're taking or other people are taking so that they know that, like, this isn't easy. This is a habit that we have to create.
Yeah,
And
yeah, a lot of that is in kind of, and we talk about that in our professional training series, asking those open-ended kind of non-judgmental conversations so you can get to understanding why people are making the decisions that they're making, because nobody intentionally says, I'm going to bring my baby into bed. I hope the blanket doesn't suffocate him. Do you know what I
right.
mean? Like, they're not even making that. As you said, are they doing this because your baby feels safer? And Dr. Berger talked about it in the last webinar. Some people who live in incredibly violent neighborhoods where they're worried about
Yep.
their safety will do that. So asking those questions to understand so you can provide alternatives, and that one-on-one conversation so you can acknowledge those small steps or those first steps towards it, and then so hopefully that mom or caregiver or dad understands what's at risk and continue down that path. So I love your idea of celebrating those small steps, and
Thank you. I'm partnering with the health department here in Knox County for my first presentation with them outside of like T-Tops. They're like checking it with me. I've done research for it and I'm super excited to present it. And I recently presented it to the community health workers there, just a small group so we can like, test drive it and see how everybody's feeling about it. And when I was presenting, I have a part of it labeled myth versus reality. And when I was speaking, I don't know what took me over, but nobody corrected me. It was in me. And I was like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to correct this from myths to common concerns because all of this is real. Like, this is reality. This is a common concern. It's not a myth. It's not made up. Like, people genuinely wonder and worry about these things. So I think calling them common concerns and then reassuring them that they can rest in the reality of, like, back is best and things like that with the science to back it. I think that really helps just alone by saying, like, yeah, that is a common concern instead of being like, oh, that's a myth.
yeah, right, because then it also makes it seem like, I love that. Look, so people who are watching this webinar, we obviously have conversations with our guests beforehand, and Alex and I had a wonderful conversation that was very emotional, but she didn't tell me this. So now I'm super excited to talk about this idea of changing the language, right? We made a decision at Cribs for Kids to, focus more on suffocation prevention and SIDS reduction versus kind of the global SUA term, because that's confusing. What is that even? So people know what suffocation is and they know what SIDS is. And so now you even saying this to change the word myth, because a myth does have like some attitude to it, right? It makes it like, well, that's stupid. Do you know, like that it's not grounded in reality. So the idea of changing that to a common concern, man, you're pretty smart.
Yeah, it
Love that.
felt really good.
I
I
love
just
that. We'll
felt
do
it
a
in the
little
moment.
asterisk. Thank you, Derek Stone Save
Yeah.
Sleep. If we choose to start using that language, that's great. Did everybody
The
hear?
language is to
You can
help.
rewind it if you're watching the recording because that's really just great.
Thank you.
And I'm sure the health department is really happy to have you come and talk about that.
They
I
are.
think to have a young mother deliver this message has a lot more impact than having like an old woman like me, up here. But you
No,
talked
you're
about,
great.
having Derek in the swing, and certainly, my boys, I kid and say they went from my belly to the bed to the floor to college practically. And in those crank swings, and that is just by the grace of God, just by luck, just by,
Mhm.
there that we didn't have that happen to us as well, because you just don't know, and you do as we continue to expand and look for ways to have an impact on people. You're doing the good work, girl. And you
Thank you.
have So, and I'm sure everybody sees this, right? It's coming through to everybody watching and listening to you that you have a great instinct and ability to connect with people and take
Thank
on
you.
perspectives and the empathy that you have. So, you also say something that we love. We hear, right? We know that it takes a village, but you say,
Tell the village. You got to tell them. You got to talk about it. Even if it is the most uncomfortable conversation ever, it will pass and you'll be glad that you had it. And like I said, it's planting seeds. You can't expect them right then and there, especially if it's like, my mom and I'm like, well, you put me to sleep in my car seat, but that's not safe. I could imagine if I knew when my mom told me to put Derek in a car seat, if I was like, what about positional asphyxiation? She would have probably been like, don't talk about that. We don't want to talk about that. That's uncomfortable. That's scary. But like, if that's her reaction, then I'd probably be pretty catty. But now I'm like, I planted the seed. I'll just continue to water it. Like, that's all you can do until something sprouts and then they decide to change their behavior and actions.
I love that. I love that. Seeds telling the village myth, common concern. You got it
Thank
going
you.
on. You need some stickers. No.
I
So
do.
so you're tell the village. So let's tell everybody how they can stay in touch with you so that you can continue to tell our whole village. So where can people find you?
So on social media, I'm Derek Stone Safe Sleep on Instagram and Facebook, and then my website is Derek Stone Safe or DerekSafeSleep.org. Sorry. And then if you put in the hashtag ABC4D, and it's not the number four, it's FOR, ABC4D, you could find me there. And then I do hashtag Tell the Village. I'm trying to get going on LinkedIn. I don't have an account yet for Derek Stone Safe Sleep, but I do have my personal account. It's Alexandria Bowerman. And again, if you put in these two hashtags, you'll be able to find me anywhere.
People are going to be looking after hearing you
Please
talk about
do.
that you're doing. So people who've joined us before know that we have a magic wand question. Now I'm looking at the clock because I'm afraid this is going to lead into a whole nother like 15-minute conversation. So I'm going to try and be mindful of it.
Me too.
But we always have a magic wand question, right? So if you, Alex, if you had an infant safe sleep wand to wave and make a wish, what would you wish for?
That safe sleep would be instinct, the same way it is to put on our seatbelt when we get in the car.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Just not really thought about because when we see blankets, we're like, oh, that people, gift baby blankets and stuff like that. Now, someone's like, I'm going to make that baby a quilt. I'm like, don't do that. Don't do that.
No, we say sew a tag on it that says for tummy time only,
Yes, see,
you
that's
know?
smart. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that safe sleep would become just instinct, right?
That's all I want.
Um, Kyron Quinlan and Gina Lowell, were on in our, was that January webinar? I don't know, 2026. Where is this? Where are we going?
Where are
Um,
we?
He does a fabulous job talking about behavior change related to seatbelts, which I love that idea, right? I had already been driving for some time when they said you have to start wearing a seatbelt, and people's responses where you would think they were being like, we're gonna tie you to your seat and then we're gonna nail you in your car seat. People were like, I don't need a seatbelt. I've been driving like this for ages. And then fast forward, I can't imagine even, I don't know when it would start, but my son's generation, nobody would get in the car without clicking it.
Right.
Like it just is. And the idea that, you had mentioned earlier, when you go on social media and you see all those unsafe photos, babies wrapped in blankets and sleeping with mom and on their belly, and it makes you just go, what? So when you talk about it being instinct, when will we get to the day, and we'll get there with the work
We
that
will.
people like you are doing, where we will have the same reaction to a photo like that as we do if we saw a pregnant mom smoking a cigarette and having a glass of wine,
Right.
or if we saw, a mom sitting in the back seat of a car with their baby on their lap. Like
Mhm.
you would never see that. You would never see it in a movie. You wouldn't unless it's, a period piece or something like that. And you would never see that. But we see these unsafe sleep photos all the time. And so I'm with you. If it just becomes your instinct, like clicking that seatbelt, that's all we need, right? We'll get there, right?
We
We're gonna get
will.
there. What are you gonna
We'll
get?
just keep watering our plants until they multiply.
Yes, yeah, and then seed and then harvest and let's go. Let's go.
Yes.
And we'll get past that 3,700 babies. So, Alex, I want to thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
your and Derek's story. Didn't you?
Thank
Right?
you, Alex.
Right? I
Thank
want to
you
say how
both,
proud I am of
everybody.
keeping it together.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm proud
So,
of us too.
yeah. So we hope that those of you who are watching will join brave parents like Alexandria and share your infant safe sleep story as we mark October's Safe Sleep Month to prevent suffocation and reduce SIDS and address common concerns, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a question as we get ready to wrap up the hour, if you have a question, be sure you've put it in the Q&A, right? So I don't know what it looks like in there if people are doing that. So if you've been with us before, you know, to wrap up, we close our webinar with 3 things. And one's kind of a double whammy this time. A call to action, registration for our next webinar, and playing Just Baby, our safe sleep lullaby. So the action item for this webinar is guess, of course, participate in October Safe Sleep Storytime. Visit Kelly's gorgeous toolkit.
Tell
by-
your story.
Yeah, go to cribsforkids.org, click on events menu, and you'll link right to Safe Sleep Storytime. And there you'll find that amazing toolkit that has everything that you need to get started. Seriously, when you log out, before you go answer an email, grab your phone and do a quick video. Visit that toolkit under the events menu to go right to Safe Sleep Storytime. Share your story, whether you're a parent, another caregiver, a healthcare professional, community health worker, a first responder, anyone. And if you don't have your own story, don't be intimidated by Alex's amazing story. If you don't have your own story, maybe you know someone who does, and you can share Safe Sleep Story Time with them. Because if you're watching this webinar, we know that you are an engaged infant safe sleep advocate working alongside us to prevent suffocation and reduce SIDS and address common concerns. So we hope we can look for your support on our social media platforms across October. That means even if you don't have a story to tell or someone else to encourage to tell theirs, you'll still share story time across your networks. So just follow us on social media and look for that hashtag Safe Sleep Storytime and at Cribs for Kids. Side action item. If you work as a home visitor or in child welfare or childcare, add visiting that professional training series module to your action item. So next is our winter webinar registration. Our quarterly winter webinar is scheduled for Thursday, January 22nd. That is 2026. So while champion guests aren't confirmed yet, you can get that date on your calendar. And while you've got your calendar out, make a quick note for the 9th Cribs for Kids Safe Sleep Conference, held virtually from September 29th to October 2nd. Again, 2026. How can that be? How can that be? So you'll look for calls for abstracts early next year. So start thinking about that while you're doing your story. And finally, as always, we end the hour with Just Baby, a safe sleep lullaby. Like our other safe sleep resources and our professional training series, it's a free resource. The song, the video, the music bed, the English and Spanish version, you can find it all on our partner resources portal, linked via the partner menu item on our website. Thank you again to my Cribs for Kids teammates, Spencer Poston, Kelly James, Andrea Wilson, Shayla Grady, and most importantly, to Derek's mom, Alexandria Bowerman from Derek Stone Safe Sleep. She's amazing, right? I am so lucky to work with so many wonderful people. And as always, thank you to those who are watching. It's the time and commitment that you share with us is how one day every baby's going to wake from every sleep. Remember, if you have that question, put it in the Q&A for our guests or staff, and join us for October's Safe Sleep Storytime. Thanks, everybody.
Sleepy baby, sleeping safely in a little crib. Bassinet or play our naps. No pillows, blankets, no toys. Just baby, sleep safe. Sleep safely. Sleep safe. Sleep safely. We share the room, but not bassinet or play our naps. No pillows, blankets, no toys, just baby.